Well, hello Dirtfish Rally friends. It's round 10 of the FIA World Rally Championship and we have come to the Acropolis Rally. But David, I don't remember Acropolis rallies looking like this. Goodness me.
It was similar 2 years ago.
On the Sunday.
Yeah.
Recce and Sunday, it cleared up for the rally.
Yeah. It can happen, O'Connell. I think the problem is we've gone from 2013 to 21 with no Acropolis rally. We had the 8 years of no event between. So the times where we would have had this weather, we probably missed it because we haven't been here. It's not unusual. You know, you heard Jordan Serdaridis say yesterday, it's not unusual to get weather like this.
At this time of the year.
Yeah. But for sure, I think the difference is that a week ago, everybody was concerned about wildfires and searing temperatures. You know, I remember typing, it's going to be in the mid-90s, and it's not.
He's got his jumper on.
I'm surprised you haven't got your coat on.
Well, because it is raining here. Folks, just to let you know, as David said, it's not unusual to get rain at this time of the year. We have had quite an exceptional storm, though, particularly around Lamia. The amount of rainfall, here's an amazing fact for you, David. The amount of rainfall they had in that region in the past 36 hours was equivalent to the yearly annual rainfall in the UK, and it rains a lot in the UK. So, storms aren't unusual. A storm of the
Is that your own? Have you gathered that data yourself?
That's not fact checked, but I have been told
you might want to run that one through Google.
By a reliable source. But the point is, David, that the organisers have faced some challenges with the amount of rain that's fallen on the stages.
You know, from the minute they started planning this event, temperatures went through, not from the minute they started planning it, but for certainly the last 6 weeks, 2 months, they've had to deal with the issues of the fires. Okay, they don't deal. We saw pre-event testing cancelled, moved, relocated. That's not really the organiser's job, but of course it's embedded in everything that they do. So they had that, then they had the concerns of are the fires. There was, I think 2 months ago, the end of June or July, I can't remember, there were fires, quite big fires around Lamia. How much was that going to impact on the route? Any tiny change is a big deal for an organiser. As much as the fires can impact on where you can go with the rally, so can this, and we will see roads being washed away here.
Well, just to let you know where we are, by the way, I should have told you, we're at the opening stage, the opening new little special stage of the rally. This is brand new for the Acropolis, right down on the docks, quite close to the port of Piraeus. Just 5 minutes ago, David, you and I caught up with the rally director, Pavlos Athanasoulas, for the very latest. What did he tell us about the conditions and the plans for the weekend?
Everything, Pavlos is like every rally organiser. He's incredibly pragmatic and deals only with facts. As things stand right now, the stages go ahead. Okay, we lost shakedown, power stage has been cut in half. The rest of everything, you cannot try and predict, second guess what the weather's doing, what the conditions are doing. You just go with what you've got. And the important thing, Cole, that he said, you asked a very relevant question about safety and safety of getting people into the stages. All he can do is now defer and essentially hand over those stages to the FAA and to Michel Mouton and the approved safety protocol that the FAA has. That will kind of kick into gear. Saturday
and Sunday are up in the mountains. That is where I think the concerns are, because the rain up there really has been quite torrential. I'm pretty certain we're good for Friday. But I tell you what, we caught up with some of the drivers just to discuss in particular the challenges of the recce, making good pace notes, and then how difficult it will be in terms of their approach. This is what they told us.
A couple of stages we needed to do new pace notes. I'm not sure actually how the other drivers have they driven these stages on 21. I don't know, but it was not too bad. Now when to make new notes on the fog inside of the cloud, that's not so easy. I mean, the mud doesn't really disturb so much, but the fog does when you cannot see. But it was not that bad, in my opinion. I mean, the conditions are quite crazy, but maybe if you ask me after Friday, I can say something else. I mean, maybe my pace notes are not good. I don't know, but for sure, when it's really muddy, it drops the speed quite a lot. And normally, I like to drive quite fast on the recce to understand the real angles of the corners, but now I cannot do it because it's so slippery. So maybe they are wrong, but let's see.
Yeah, the moment is always like a disaster because
First day, the recce was really nice, and also you come here and normally it's nice rally, really demanding for the cars. The cleaning effect is really high. So maybe you are not very fast, but you can be in the top because of all of these things. We need to be like clear. And then you arrive there and you can see this turn to the other way. When it's muddy, more back you go, more worse this is. And the conditions are not like you can push, you can enjoy. It's like you take one corner and it's going out because it's very slippery. And also the recce was not in good conditions. But it's like it is, we need to handle like this.
So let's hope that this year, of course, the weather is really extreme now, so let's hope it gets a bit better. So it will be more enjoyable, but of course I'm happy to see a bit of rain when normally being first on dry Greece is not so easy weekend.
What really impressed me last time was on the Sunday, you went out with, I think, one hard compound or two hards on your car, and when the weather was really difficult. It does look as if this week could be about tyre management, knowing where to use those hard compound tyres. You've got that experience and you've shown you can drive on them.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tricky weekend if it stays, let's say, damp. We don't have so many soft tyres. Will be different tyre plans through the weekend, I'm sure.
Dirtfish Live Center.
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 Now, David Evans. Within the Dirtfish camp for the past week, we have been debating vigorously, I would say, whether or not Elfyn Evans still has a realistic chance.
We've been arguing.
Okay, we've been arguing about it. Strangely, I think these conditions, I think this rally plays into Evans's hands. If we were on a dry tarmac rally, we had two of them coming up.
Yeah. It's inconsistency.
Inconsistency, unpredictability.
Exactly. It brings the potential for reward. It brings potential for disaster. Of course it does. But you can roll the dice now, can't you? You can. The big thing, the big question for me here, Cole, is tyres. We saw in Sardinia where obviously Pirelli cannot be.
Why you're the number one? Tyres, I'd have forgotten about that. Hugely important point. Make it.
Pirelli can't be blamed for this, but when they set the allocations, they decide that the hard tyre is going to be the prime tyre, isn't it? It's the one that everybody's going to want to use. It's going to be mid-90s. It's going to be absolutely baking rock hard. They'll rifle through those hard tyres.
Tyre wear, massive.
And then suddenly it's all changed. Nobody wants a hard tyre. Everybody wants a soft tyre. It's almost an absolute replica of the conditions and the scenario that we had in Sardinia this year, where everybody, again, expected really hot, dry conditions, and we got pouring rain.
You're absolutely right. It is incredibly difficult. But I want to go back a little bit to the point you were making about Evans. Now is the time, maybe, for him to take a little bit of a risk. This is exactly what Elfyn told us about that potential scenario.
25 points with 4 rallies to go is definitely a case that it's still alive. It's still all to do on our side, let's say, to close that gap. If Cali doesn't have any issues over the remaining 4 rallies, it's going to have to be a big performance to pull back those points. But of course, we're here to try and do our best.
With 4 rallies to go, with a 25-point deficit, are you now looking at maybe pushing that risk factor up a touch?
No, we continue to do our best job. That's it ultimately. We're always targeting to try and win, to do what we can. And the risk normally comes with your feeling whether things are working well. You start to risk when things aren't working well. That's normally when the problems start to happen. So we'll judge it day by day and see how it goes.
Do you know what? That is absolutely Elfyn Evans through and through, David.
Yeah.
He is so just focused on the moment. Focused on the moment, and it's always, let's just wait and see what happens.
It's a gamble, you would have seen, back in the day, you'd have seen the likes of Colin McRae and these kind of drivers take the risk. And less these days, Chris Meek was another one that could really gamble and could end up on Friday with a minute's lead. Just from doing that, braking a bit later into the corners and just gambling. And we don't tend to have, from the years of Sebastian Loeb into Sebastian Ogier, we don't really have those drivers. I guess the other guy that could take that gamble is Oyk Tanak, with less to lose in terms of a championship. So for me, a hot, dry Acropolis is always amazing because it brings that just the unexpected, you know, always something's going to break. It tests everything to the absolute limit.
Here's an interesting thing. You know, we put this question to Sébastien Ogier. You know, how do you approach it, having had such a difficult recce? And he said, well, you just have to be a little bit more cautious. My question to Ogier was, well, I've never known drivers be more cautious. This is what Sébastien Ogier told us.
If the weather turned to be good for the weekend, yeah, then it's a matter of keeping your eyes open and adapt your rhythm. But it's easier to say than to do. So, sorry, so go ahead. You have one more question.
I've been covering you for 15 years. I've been covering the sport for 20 years. And it astonishes me how drivers are incapable of thinking that way. You know, because it is just constant push, max. It's such a difficult balance to achieve, isn't it?
No, it is. And I mean, I expected on that side a very difficult weekend, but also it's a rough rally. I think even what we've seen was pretty rough in places. So that's the kind of event, if you go flat-eyed from start to finish, there is very little chance, or you need a big amount of luck to succeed. So yeah, of course, it's easier to say than to do, because we always feel that, if I don't give everything, maybe there was another one who's going to try and going to win the rally. So that's the difficulty of the sport. But yeah, I hope I can still use my head well this weekend.
Welcome to Dirtfish, where we'll teach you how to do this and this. And all you have to do is click this link. We'll see you soon.
David, something else that really wasn't typical here last year was the performance of Toyota. You know, we've just heard from Sébastien Ogier. It was an absolute nightmare for them, and Hyundai, fair play to them, they capitalised on the opportunity that was presented to them. That's not going to be the situation this year, is it?
No, it's not. They learned from everything last year. They realised that with that new Rally 1 car, the Achilles heel was this style of rough gravel rally. It's not going to be as rough, as hot, as arduous as it was last year. We know that from what we've seen in the weather. And secondly, as I say, they've learned. The car's evolved tremendously. They've made quite significant changes to the car. We've seen already the pace from, Safari last year, they were pretty good there as well, weren't they? The 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's for me, it's not an indicative thing of rough rallies. It was quite a specific issue. I would be pretty surprised if we don't see a Toyota on the podium.
I would be extremely surprised. What potentially might have helped Hyundai in their efforts to get a really good and strong result here would have been normal Acropolis conditions. We saw last year Louis Louvet leading at one point. We saw both of the Fords, 1 and 2 at the end of day one. Road position under normal circumstances on the Friday here is a massive advantage. You know what, with Sordo, with Neuville and with Lappi in their road positions, they might well have expected to have been strong on the Friday to give themselves something to defend. We're not going to see that. Who knows what we're going to see out there on Friday this time round, David?
Exactly that. That established kind of order that you expect on a Friday night. And Lube drove brilliantly last year, but it was no surprise to see him where he was. And that's not to take any credit away from him. You've still got to drive the car and you've still got to deliver that performance. But yeah, I think now the weather has absolutely chucked a stick in the spokes.
We are literally hours away. This is going to be great, by the way. They do like to try different things here. Who could forget the Olympic Stadium that first time we went there?
Incredible.
That sellout crowd, the atmosphere. Last year was an amazing atmosphere when we returned to the Olympic Stadium.
They are innovators here, aren't they?
You know,
they've got. And it's not an easy job because, just coming from one side of Athens to the other, it's a huge task still. The traffic in the city is insane, but they do things differently. They're willing to give it all a go.
Whatever happens, we're in for a very, very interesting few days here in Greece. Don't forget Dirtfish Live Centre. If you do miss anything, have a little push of the button up here above David's head. Don't think it's above my head, think it's above David's head. Have a little push of the button, that will take you to Dirtfish Live Centre. Everything you need is there. You can follow our adventures around the stages, results, photographs, videos, everything you need on Dirtfish Live Centre. As always, we're excited to be in Greece. We do hope it goes well. Stick with us, folks, at dirtfish.com and Dirtfish Live Centre. We'll keep you informed every single step of the way.